On today's RPG Book Club,
Once there was an ugly barnacle. He was so ugly that everyone died. The end.
all right, hello and welcome to RPG Book Club, the podcast where we play long games together and discuss them in the moment. I am Sam Allman.
No matter what anybody tells you, I am the real Michael. Hi, I'm Michael Rodriguez. What's up? Don't believe no matter what anyone else says. Hi, that's me, okay?
I believe you.
Thanks.
I'm the only Eli. I'm also Sailor Eli on YouTube.
And before we get started, I have a couple bits of follow-up to go over. The first and most important is we got the gang back together.
Woo!
Michael Harder with a Vengeance is here. Say hello, Michael.
Hi, that's a great introduction. Yeah, I'm Michael too, Michael Harder with a Vengeance. Y'all can call me Michael, or if that keeps getting confusing, you can just say Spiffle, because I go by Spiffle on various online things.
Yeah, I was going to refer to you as Spiffle or Spiff because I'm lazy, and if it's ever confusing, I might refer to the real Michael Rodriguez as Rizzo, because that's also his online handle, but more than likely I'll just say Mike and confuse both of you because that's what I want to happen.
Yeah.
Neat.
Did you want to introduce yourself otherwise?
Yeah, I'll just say a couple things. So hi everybody. Again, I'm Michael Webbin at SPIFFL on like Twitter and Mastodon or whatever. I was meant to be here all along, but I've been going through some tough life stuff. Eventually I decided I'm still going through tough life stuff, but I was like, you know what? Games are really good self-care. I want to play this game. I don't want to continue not playing this game. So I got started like 2 months ago, and I finally caught up just in time. I'm really pleased to be here, and for reasons I might get into later, I'm really pleased to be playing this game specifically because this is my third time attempting to play this game, and the podcast was just what I needed to get past like the first 2 months, and I really, really, really love it, and I'm glad that happened.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I am glad that you are a podcast success story. We have a couple people in the Discord who are podcast non-success stories. The first 2 months, they were like, "Man, this is great. I'm playing with you guys. I should be done on Monday." And they're like, "I haven't played in the past like 4 weeks, but I still listen."
Yeah, and honestly, the number one thing I'm excited about today, recording, I don't even fuck you guys. I don't even care about the podcast. I just can't wait to go and play more of the game.
Right.
I'm like, I can't wait. Like tonight, I get to actually play the game again.
Same.
It's great.
I actually sort of cheated because we always stop on the first save point after you get to blah blah blah, and so it was the first save point after you get to the 1st of January, which in itself is a spoiler. We'll get to that later. But the first day of January, and so I saved then, and I was like, man, I really want to play this game, so I'm gonna go into Tartarus, and I'll save in Tartarus because I know that it won't nothing's going to happen, so I can just keep playing all week and just grind out Tartarus until all my people get tired. So I
so almost did that.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing. Speaking of podcast success stories, I'm glad you're here, Michael,
Right.
because our podcast is a sham and it's a fraud. We accidentally ripped off an entire other podcast that exists. I mean, in episode 0, we say, hey, this is a ripoff of OG Plus Cast, but we're like OG Plus Cast, and we do something different. There is another podcast that is literally the exact same thing that we do. They're called Square Roots Podcast, and they play little chunks of an RPG every single week and come back together, and they're just buds. They're no names. They're just really love RPGs, and they're talking about the story as they go through them, which kind of scared me at first, but then I was like, oh well, if Newton and Leibniz can both create calculus, we can both create a RPG book club.
This is how I was thinking of it. I started a Let's Play channel back in 2016. How many other frickin' people had Let's Play channels in 2016?
Literally everybody.
Yeah. So
literally everybody.
The way I thought of it was, there's lots of other people who have played these games that I love, but fuck it. No, I'm not those people. I haven't played these games online. So whatever, I will do the funny voices. I'll give my own commentary. I'll give my own thoughts. there aren't a lot of LGBT Let's Players, at least not very well known ones. So, like,
Right.
I'm adding my own voice to it.
I'm into that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we all have our own personalities. We all bring different things to the table. I mean, that's the point, is personal reflection. And also, FYI, it's funny that you mentioned like being unique or having a niche or not. I've got this project that I just decided that I'm definitely going to do that I can guarantee no one else is doing. It is an extremely strange niche video game project, and I might be inviting any number of you guys to join me. So more on that. Y'all look forward to it, because when I tell you, you'll be like, oh yeah, no one's doing that.
No one's possibly ever going to do that.
But it's so stupid, nobody else would possibly do it.
Yeah, both are what is best. But if you want to, or let me phrase it this way: if you have a lot more free time than me and you want to play 2 RPGs per week, you can go and play along with them. They just started their playthrough of Grandia 1. I think they're on episode 2 of Grandia 1. I think they just came out today, which is Monday, by the way. And so if you wanted to go and play through Grandia 1 while with them, you definitely could. You can find them at squareroots.libsyn.com or on Twitter at squarerootspod. And they're really good. I've actually been listening to their Final Fantasy IX because I love Final Fantasy IX, and they're like funny people. And the Matt, one of the guys, sounds just like TJ Miller, and that makes me really happy. But the next thing, which is some might say the most important thing, is it's time to decide what our next game is. This is the important thing. I haven't checked it today to see if Michael called and bribed people to vote on the polls or not. But let's see.
Hold on, guys. I do have one confession. I never officially voted on the poll.
It doesn't matter.
I knew what I wanted. I just forgot to. It doesn't matter. There's not a one vote.
No,
It's not. It's
I didn't.
Not a one vote
last
off.
night, I honestly was like considering doing it because I think I could have turned it out, or I think I could have. It was either if I wasn't gonna turn it out, then I was gonna cheat my way into it, and just
buy
do
4
3 different accounts and just be like, I don't know what happened, bitch. But the truth is that we all know who the winner is. Bring her out on the runway, announce her. Let her have her moment.
The winner and still champion of our Patreon poll for the next game we're doing is Rogage Shadow Galaxy. No.
Okay, roll that shit back.
I fucking hate you, Jesus Christ.
I would play that game.
But it's Rogue Galaxy won out. I was so like asking for Michael to canvas and get those last votes in, because I like on Friday I went ahead and bought my copy of Rogue Galaxy. I like packed up my PS2 to lend it to Michael because so that he could play it because he doesn't have a PS4, and like everything was all like tidy and ready. And Michael's like, "There's still like 48 hours on the poll," and I'm like, "So." Yeah.
You believed in yourself, and it worked.
So
It did.
You believed in the heart of the cards.
Oh yeah. If you were really hoping for Okage, first off, you should have voted. Second off,
Yeah, why don't you
how
give
I
us
feel
money
about
so you
that.
can vote?
Please.
there's no need to worry if you really want to play Okage. I'm mostly speaking to my co-host right now because at the end of the year, we're going to have a free-for-all poll. So like normally our polls are just going to be picked between 2 games. But at the end of the year, we'll have a quote-unquote best of the rest poll where like all of the ones that didn't win throughout the year, they'll all be dumped together and you can vote on those to be like, oh, I really wanted them to play Okage, but it lost out to Rogue Galaxy. You can then vote at that point to get Okage as when we do next year. And then if a game loses twice, so say Okage still doesn't win in the best of the rest, it then can be nominated again, because if every time we put up a game we cut our potential RPGs in half, that will make us never play any RPGs. So So
Right.
after everything loses in January, then someone can be like, okay, well, I really think this time we should definitely play Okage, and they can put it up for another poll.
I also want to
So-
mention real quick, we talked about this last time, but my YouTube channel, Sailor Eli on YouTube, is going to be our official Let's Play channel. So Tuxedo Ken and I are going to Let's Play Rogue Galaxy. And then, I'll come in and talk about it on the podcast afterwards. But that way, if you're interested, you can play along with me. You can see my reactions in the moment to various aspects of the game. You can see how shitty I am firsthand at video games, not just
Right.
Rogue Galaxy.
Oh,
I want to say I know that I'm gonna stay tuned to watch that.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks, Eli.
Yeah, you should watch my Earthbound. It is awful. I feel bad at that game. Among other games.
Eli's like, if you don't like, a lot of people don't know this, but Eli's probably like the nicest person in real life.
Thank you.
And hearing him get mad about something is so funny when it's Earthbound. Okay, you should watch because it's funny. It's like really funny. It's like, because knowing him personally, he's just like really the nicest person. And I just have such a hard time seeing you get pissy. You know what I mean? And so it's like, and I love video games for that very reason, because it's like I'm like watching you like go ape shit over this game, and I'm like, oh my god, this is hilarious. Like, this poor guy hates this. Like, it's so funny. It's great, Eli.
No, you go on, Eli.
I have had fun regardless of how terrible I am at the game, except maybe one, like when I did the Count Lucanor. Like, I got to one point and I was just like, nope, fuck it, I'm done.
Nice.
Anyway.
Speaking of Eli being bad at games, okay, honestly, as a listener of this cast and a fan of all of you people personally, I really like all y'all, even though I didn't know anyone but Sam until recently. Y'all are all great.
Thanks, BB.
Oh my god, y'all are bad at video games.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's a little different. Okay, so first of all, Michael, you've already played this game, so you're
Yep.
fine. You're playing a different version.
Yeah,
But,
so many times, and I realized like this is the last time I'm gonna fucking play this game.
Yeah.
I'm
And
never
I-
playing.
I-
I am never playing Persona 3 again. This is it, bitch. Like
Like,
this is.
I'll admit I'm
done.
a little biased. I'm a little biased because I've played Persona 4 to completion. I've played about half of Persona 3. I stopped playing not because I didn't like it. I actually love it, but for reasons. So I get how Persona works. And a lot of that knowledge is transferable. Not just
Yeah.
battle system knowledge, but just knowing what to prioritize, knowing to pass, to work on your social stats, stuff like that.
Right, a lot of
But
mechanical
even-
stuff is
But
like
even
parallel.
given all of that, I'm just like, so many things, Sam, so many things you say, I'm just like, oh, honey, no. No.
So on the episode we record on the 16th will be a follow-up, and I was going to have a clip show pretty much of every time Sam tried to guess the mechanics and was horribly wrong on how they all work. Like,
Or the
I said
part
with
where you're
such conviction that I was like, there's affection points. No, the social links for girls are all just romantic. That's how it works.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
also just stuff where okay, so you know how in this game they'll drop a plot point and you're like, oh, that's foreshadowing, and then it'll be months before it resolves. That's how I felt every time Sam was like, yeah, I don't use the buff or debuff spells, and I was like, oh, I can't wait to actually start using them. Maybe we use them next month. No,
Fun fact.
not using them next
I
month.
still don't use them. I just know that Aegis and Koromaru have a lot of them, so I just set them to support when I go into fights.
Right. So yeah, so I'm like, so you're like, oh, the mouse is so hard, and I'm like, I wonder why.
Yeah, I will be the first to admit that the reason I love JRPGs so much is because you can't actually be bad at a JRPG. You can just throw enough bodies at it that eventually you'll win. So that's how I pretty much get through all of these fights.
For the record, I'm not going to condone. Everyone has pros and cons, and I don't y'all are all great. Some people are engaged in different ways. I think it's so funny how differently we play these games, and I will love to talk about it probably next week.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, the way that I approached Persona 3 was I guess kind of half-assed, because I'm like, oh, here, it's you again, Jesus Christ, how are you God damn it, oh my god, this is gonna be crazy. And so I think that was my problem. I know that playing Persona 3 makes me want to play Persona 5 for some reason.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll be pretty eager about that.
Yeah.
Once I get a PS4 or something.
There was one
or PS3.
There was one point during the Hanged Man fight where I was like, can I get away with just watching a Let's Play of this?
Yeah. And I forgot about how like and that's the thing about like Persona 3 that I think like we were talking about earlier in a podcast that like really lends to the Shin Megami Tensei parent title is that it can be like annoyingly tough, but that's like every Shin Megami Tensei game, I guess. Yeah. And a lot of it is just about knowledge of fight and mechanics in order to get through it. But I'm very happy to put Persona 3 back on the bookshelf when this happens. It's a great book.
It's so good. I may play it one more time like in my life because like I really the idea of like doing a perfect playthrough kind of sounds fun to me, but I don't think I will play it in like the 2020s. Like it'll probably be like like I'll be like 40 the next time I try it. So
not until I'm retired, at least.
You're gonna give it a decade. You're gonna let it cook for a little bit.
That's the problem.
Definitely.
That game got its hooks in me deep, man. When I beat it, if it wasn't for the fact that I'm gonna have to start playing Okage, Rogue Galaxy. I mean, if it wasn't for the thing Rogue Galaxy, I would just turn around and start immediately playing it again, 100% it, and then probably definitely play the answer, which I will be playing, so y'all don't have to.
Oh, thank you.
Cool.
I have the script for it. I'm going to read the script to talk about it on the final, but I won't have time. I'm going on tour with my band. Shameless humble brag. I'm going on tour with my band this next week, so I will not have time to play an entire like 20-hour campaign before next week. Yeah. But that about does
Speaking
it.
of Persona 3.
What?
I said speaking of Persona 3.
Speaking of Persona 3, that is about all of our follow-up. We had an actual 16 minutes of follow-up, which was pretty awesome this time around. So let's go ahead and dive right in. And boy, do we dive right in because the full moon is on the 2nd of this month. There's no lead up. We get right to it. Except for nothing happens on the full moon. Like it even lets you do social links and like go to pick if you want to go to bed or study and all of that stuff.
Fuka even says like, we're halting operations, bitch. And you just don't go to Tartarus.
Yeah. And so I'm like, well, that's weird. So I go to sleep. But then, of course, something happens at the dark hour, of course.
Yeah.
And so Ryoji is on the Moonlight Bridge and Aigis comes after him. And she's like, I've been looking for you. And he says, I don't know what I'm doing here. I woke up here when I came to my senses. It feels like something terrible happened here, yet I feel at peace. And she's like, it's the dark hour. You shouldn't be this happy. And then she realizes why she feels uneasy around him. She's like, go ahead.
So it's revealed that Aigis remembers that she fought Ryoji a long time ago. She says, you know, like you don't remember, we fought on this very bridge a long time ago. I couldn't beat you, so I had to seal you away, and I locked you away in a person's body. And then as she's narrating this story, Ryoji's like, oh yeah, I remember, holy shit. And he's also saying like, we did fight, you couldn't beat me, but the only thing that you could seal me in was, in my case, a little girl that was nearby. It's revealed that Ryoji, I don't remember the exact dialogue between it, but does he already reveal at that time that he's the, amalgamation or that
he
basically?
Yeah, he gets to that. I think it's a little bit later, but it's all part of the same cutscene. But he remembers that he was the 13th Arcana, the Arcana of Death, the one that shouldn't be, and the little human boy / girl that he was locked away in, of course, is the protagonist. It's us, and he says that the whole time he's been leading the protagonist to the parts of his body so that he could bring them back together so he could be born again.
In this game, you are the villain. It's you.
It's Shadow of the Colossus all over again.
Yeah.
Well, also,
this feels like this scene feels like super anime weeaboo because it's like old enemies like attacking each other, and then I guess promptly attacks him.
So you don't remember this because it's been a while since you've played it, but it is anime weeaboo at this point. All of this is
Love it.
is part of an anime cutscene, which
It's just text to me.
yeah, which like I get excited when I see an anime cutscene, and then I remember I have to be fast when I'm taking notes because I can't just pause it on a certain thing. So I'm just like speed typing, and so I was mad that all of this was in an anime cutscene, but.
I gotta say, speaking of
But it was a
anime
good
cutscene, I
one.
am blown away by these anime cutscenes in this game because, like, it's a weird style that isn't in the later games. I'm not saying later games don't have anime
Yeah.
cutscenes; they do, but I think part of it is the this game is not extremely huge budget, right? And Personas 4 and 5 have way
Yeah.
bigger budgets, so they do a lot of things that I can tell are really more like budget things. So it's like, detailed flowing animation costs a lot of money. So we're going to do cheapo animation, which means a lot of like still images, or not like still images, but like pans and flashes and a lot of stuff to sort of disguise the fact that your animation isn't super animated. But what do they do to disguise that? They do these like amazing, these cross-cutting composition, like superimposition. They do all these. They do so many images where you have like a person maybe somewhat small on the screen and like a blank background or sort of a weird surreal background, and like there's so much style, and it's all very it's all just like very experimental and avant-garde.
Yeah.
It reminds me a lot of as has been said multiple times, it's very Lynchian. And it's just they're like, yeah, we're not going to depict things in a direct, clear manner. We're going to depict things very impressionistically because A, we can do it on a lower budget, and B, it looks incredible.
Yeah.
It's freaking cool.
I love it.
Yeah, and
I've always loved it. It's very abstract.
and so like since like I played Persona 4 a little bit long time ago. Since we started the podcast, I've started playing Persona 5, and each game is incredibly stylish, but they like the only like similar style between all of them is the fact that they are stylish. And so it's like whatever they pick for their aesthetic, they're going to go hard on, but they don't really like all feel the same way. Even Persona 3 and 4 that are in the same engine, like the UI design of everything is like way different and like such a different feel than Persona
4
3
is like
was.
lush, and Persona 4 is like warm and human and friendly, and this game is the opposite of all three of those things.
Yeah. Like this game for no good reason. When you're in Tartarus, you have overlays on your screen that are like mostly transparent most of the time, but will just have like a blood splatter or like a bright light where you can't see part of things, and it's just like just random, just like gunk all over the game, and it's amazing.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to really a lot of the abstract color choices and the way that they really use space and dark color themes, I think is really supposed to and kind of tie into the feeling that this is like a really this is a game based on a lot of mentality and a lot of like human emotion, and human emotion a lot of the time relies on mentality. I mean, so like I definitely think that like how this is supposed to feel is like really trippy, right? Because that's what Persona 3 feels like. Is that it's like a lot of it feels like you just can't believe that they're kind of going to a lot of the topics that they're going to in the way that they are. It's like campy. You're in a you go to sleeping to like being transported to like a dark screen with a single door there, like a window to your mind. You know what I mean? It's really, really weird. And so it's just abstract, odd, but I really feel like it leans on this Shin Megami Tensei aesthetic.
The two later ones. I played 4 on the Vita, and 5 is a modern game for modern HD TVs. So I just realized this is the first Persona game that I've played that is in a 4:3 aspect ratio. And I'm a huge nut for 4:3 aspect ratio. And again, Persona 4, I played the Vita version, which is widescreen. So yeah, so the things they are doing with that composition, that 4:3 composition, is just wonderful.
It's so good. So It still, at the end of that anime cutscene, I guess sicks her persona at him, but it's being held back by some force, like Dragon Ball Z style. And he's not even like holding up his hand to stop it. He's just sitting there like freaking out, like, oh yeah, I guess I am death. I'm not just this pervert boy we thought we were. And their persona can't do anything, and it exerts, I guess, and she breaks down, and she's like, I have failed. A machine who cannot complete her purpose is useless, and the anime cutscene ends. It jumps back to the meeting room where Mitsuru and Fuka are scanning everything to try and see if there's anything happening because it's a full moon. And Yukari walks in and she's just like, hey guys, I'm ready for an operation. And they're just like, there's none of that, but we can't find Aigis, so we're trying to find her. And so Fuka, of course, finds her on the bridge, and they run off to go and help her out. When they get there, Koromaru finds her first, and she's like broken and sparky and all beat up. And she says that she remembers everything. And then I come to comfort her and I hold her hand. Yeah. And she says she knows why she wanted to be with me, and that I say that it's going to be okay. And then she breaks down for real. And
I don't like this next part. I think that there's like a dissonance in between seeing one of your comrades beat the hell up and then having Ryoji come up and then like everyone's just like having a conversation, like what the hell happened, right? Like I remember seeing this, and every single time I see this, I'm like, what were they going for here? And I just don't think it was good writing, because it doesn't make sense to me. Like Aigis could be like laying on the floor, literally going like, oh, this is terrible, and then
they're just having a chit chat with Ryoji at that point.
And
yeah. That's it.
And like Mitsuru at least does play her bad cop for like a second, but then when he's like, "Oh, I'm the bad guy. It's me. I am the star." She's like, "Okay, go on." Instead of like trying to fight him right there. Like it is
right. It's so weird. I didn't get it, and it took me out of the moment every single time that I've seen it, and I don't like that particular.
I think that they had to find a reason to prolong it so that they could get through the end of December. They could build up the tension, which is part of why they didn't just automatically fight him. Like they had to find an excuse for that.
I think they still could have done that with a auto lose fight.
Oh, absolutely.
Like one where you go in and your thing does 0, and then he one shots your party, and then it cuts out, and he's like, hey, like, don't fight me. I have things to tell you. I don't want to hurt you. Like they could have done more to it.
Yeah,
it just
I'm absolutely not saying that's the case. And I'm not meaning to make excuses for them. I'm just saying that, like, they may have not realized that. They may have not considered that. That may have just at the time seemed like a bad idea because there aren't any auto lose fights in the game.
Yeah, and they also were trying to hype up that Ryoji became one of the bros over these last 2 months. And so maybe it's like, oh, hey, like, because like every other person there present, they meet them for the first time in the dark hour, and they're like, oh shit, you're joining our team. So Aigis is beat up, in walks their friend at the dark hour. They're like, hell yeah, another Persona user. It's probably what was going through their head. And so they didn't fight him right away. But then he says, I'm the bad guy. And
here's how I react.
They don't fight. So
yeah, they're like, all right. Put the handcuffs on him and take him in. And then you're like, what? I have no idea how this happens. But I mean, yeah.
I think they might have been thrown off for a similar reason that I was thrown off. And because I was thrown off by his... Well, he seemed very confused. Mm-hmm. So like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm meeting the game halfway, because you're right. It could have been better. The actual writing, as in the literal dialogue, like the word for word choice, could have been a lot better. But the general way that it happened, like the fact that they acted the way they acted, I actually think made sense to me. Mm-hmm. Even if, again, the writing wasn't necessarily as clear as it could have been. Yeah. Because like, I don't know, like, this guy doesn't seem like he is happy about the fact that he's apparently the bad guy. And he's like, hey guys, I'm apparently the bad guy. This is weird. And they're like, you're right, this is weird.
That's fair.
And for some reason it clicked to me on sort of a deeper level. However, that is because I think I was just on the same wavelength as the characters in the story.
Mhm.
So I was like, yeah, this makes sense. But you're right that when you look at it from afar, it actually is weird.
I will say that this probably is the best scene in this month for the simple fact that when Ryoji starts talking, the Tartarus theme plays, but it's a ballad version of it, and like a piano ballad slow. Like it's not the same one as like the sad events like when Yukari was watching the thing. It's a new different version that's like the slow it's a slow ballady version of the Tartarus theme, and it's beautiful, and I'm going to drop it in right now. But yeah, so it's awesome. Yeah, we mentioned that Ryoji shows up, says he's the bad guy. He specifically says that he's called the Appriser. The Appriser is part of this thing to awaken the maternal being called Nyx, and the shadows are there to facilitate the rebirth of the maternal being, and when she begins to awaken, she'll come to the Appriser, and she's a super duper evil, and there's no comparable word for her in English. Good old Lovecraftian horrible thing.
I love that phrase, maternal being. That's so loaded and is so good.
Yeah.
Like, ooh.
So he says 10 years ago he was created, but the process was interrupted, so he woke in an incomplete state. Hurrah for Yukari's dad for making that happen. He's the true OG, besides Koromaru, who literally saved the entire universe last episode. So since he was incomplete, Aigis could destroy him, but she couldn't defeat him completely, so she sealed him in a child, and the child grew up and carried him inside of him, and then transferred here later as a transfer student, and everyone's like, oh shit, now we all know what the player knew 5 minutes ago. And he also says that giving the persona and everything was just to unify Death himself, and that there's more that he needs to tell us, but then he collapses and brings us to the next day. In proper Persona 3 fashion, we go to school the next day. Yeah, and so Mitsuru comes in and is like, hey, after school we should have a meeting, and so we do. One thing I will say about Persona 3 is they do this bit a lot where it's like, okay, you go to school the next day, but then they're like, but after school it's not a real like playing the day of school, you have to go straight to it. The time being after school and not just daytime would tell me the same information,
Right.
and I feel like I think I've clocked in like 90 hours on this game so far. If these 90 hours were just all of those cut out, probably would be a more manageable size. But it's like when you go and like something important is about to happen, you get sometimes like 4 days in a row where it's like, oh, you have to go to school, and it's going to show you stupid school stuff and all of this stuff, but it's not important. You're not actually doing anything. It's nothing you haven't seen 100 times over. They really could have just skipped it, but oh well.
I agree.
That was an aside. So at the dorm that night, Ryoji says he has more to tell us, and Mitsuru's like, okay, cool, I have a lot of questions. Start grilling him, and he's like, he says the maternal being is called Nyx. She's the mother of all shadows, and she has bestowed death upon the world since ancient times. If she's awakened, darkness will cover the land, and all life will vanish, aka the fall, aka apathy syndrome, which I think is the first time they've actually answered a question in Persona 3.
Yep.
Like, this was one of the first ones. Is like, what even is apathy syndrome? We should explore Tartarus to find out, and here we are. finally finding out what
Literally
apathy syndrome is.
the will to live. They go and then ask him a set of questions, just like, "Can we kill Nyx? Can we do anything to prevent this?" And Ryoji's like, "Nope, nope." No, he's like, hello, I'm here. I am the affirmation that this shit's gonna happen. And he says that defeating her, well, Junpei gets overzealous and he's like, this should be easy because all we have to do is defeat Nyx. And he goes, we've never lost. Except for each and every time that we've gotten our asses kicked.
Also, only in this timeline, we haven't loaded the game up after losing to a boss.
Right. Ryoji says that defeating her is impossible, that there's no use, that she's a force of nature and an inevitability. And all of us are kind of like shocked. Like it's funny because when I don't know what good writing is with this topic. Right, like, because I was like looking at the responses of like Yukari and everybody else, and I'm like, I'm expecting Yukari to just be like screaming at the top of her lungs for some reason, right? Like, I don't know why. I just feel like she's that kind of character, like absolutely just losing
because,
it.
Like the lights go out, and she's like, "Holy shit, it's Ghost!" But then she's like, "Oh, we're all going to die before we graduate." Oh well, let me crack a joke real quick.
I feel like learning about impending doom. I feel like it's. I mean, I feel like sometimes the worse the news you receive, the harder it is to actually process it, right?
Oh yeah, no, there's definitely levels.
Like, that's going to take some time to fully internalize.
Yeah, some people skip different levels of like of shock, and so like some people just go straight to just no response at all because they can't find a different response. And so that's, I mean, it was just like really funny to me because it just escalates so quickly, and then they're like, hey, I'm the harbinger of death, and then, hey, you're gonna die tomorrow, and everyone's like, what the fuck? It's just like really intense, and it's a lot, but it's funny because the theme is not artificial. Like that's actually how death works. That's actually how this shock is. It's just like you don't really have time to process it. You only have time to make a choice. Ryoji says that because of how he was in us, Jesus, this just sounds really weird, that he has learned how to laugh and cry. And so to think as he's gonna give us a choice, and he says like, you can kill me, I won't feel anything, no problem, no hard feelings, and you can live in peace. Like, you'll forget everything, you'll forget Tartarus personas, you can go back to school tomorrow and just live in peace, and that way you won't know anything's happening, and doing so will stop the dark hour, and when the fall comes, it'll be instantaneous and they won't have to live in fear. Now normally Ryoji can't be killed, but because of the main character, he's human, so he's able to, and only the main character can kill him. Ryoji then says, Yukari and the main character says, like, I don't want to forget my memories, I don't want to let go of my memories, and Yukari is like, I don't want to forget either, and Ryoji says, you don't know the terror of death, implying that what we're going up against is like really huge. We don't have to decide right now. And then he tells us that we have up until New Year's Eve to think about it, and after that he'll be intangible anyway. So New Year's Eve he's like, well, I'm gonna just like fall into a puddle of black soup anyway. So like he's like, so like you're gonna kill me or that's gonna happen. And so he said, he's like, okay, I'll be back New Year's Eve, bye. And we're
I just thought that was weird because he's like, yeah, like you don't have to decide right now, decide in a month, instead of you don't have to decide right now, you can decide at any point between now and the next month. Like, I still want to go to school and hang out and be your friend. He's just like, nope, I guess I'm gonna go just like hang out at the arcade for 6 months and then I'll come back.
Old dusty trail.
Well, I think he disappeared into nothingness for a month. I think it was implied that it wasn't his decision. Like, he just, sorry, I'm not going to exist anymore, except I will exist on New Year's Eve.
Yeah, it was weird. I'm not sure which way it was supposed to go, but yeah. So that was basically the end of that first bit. Did anybody have anything they wanted to add before we skip to the next bit? I know that was a lot to go over, but
I was just going to point out that, like, going back to the beginning of the game, there, we had that whole Greek mythology thing. Nyx is actually the name of the Greek goddess of the night. I don't know how much, because I haven't really studied on Nyx specifically, but I don't know how much she has in common with the shadow Nyx, but I just thought it was interesting coming back around to more of that Greek religious symbolicism. So
that's neat. The low keyness of it being like just goddess of the night instead of like goddess of death or whatever. Right. That's pretty low key. I like that.
I just looked Nyx up on Wikipedia. Apparently, she was also the mother of Hypnos, who embodied sleep, Thanatos, who embodied death, and Erebus, who embodied darkness.
Ooh.
So that all ties up nicely.
Yeah. So while she herself was just like the night, she also encompassed, like, she was the mother of all of these different aspects that go along with the same kind of shadow in Persona 3. So I think it works out really well.
The ultimate persona for the Death Arcana, I think, is Thanatos, is it not?
Thanatos, yeah. And Michael had actually, Michael A., original Michael Classic, had mentioned that at the beginning when Orpheus transformed into Thanatos.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's Thanatos, yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, things I was going to mention. So first of all, huge plot hole here. Ryoji is all like, "Yo, I'm the appraiser," and Junpei apparently knows what that is. Junpei would be like, "What the hell does the word appraiser mean?"
Because he's when Mitsuru's like Très bien, he's like Treban. What's that?
Well, maybe like his vocabulary is just very specific. Junpei just knows, like, there was there's a game I was watching a Let's Play of recently, and it looks like just a god awful game, but there was a character in it who was talking about, like, she just sounds really stupid, but she's asking for whippets, and you ask her what whippets are, and she goes off on this big long thing about like exactly what whippets are and like the science of how they work, and you're like, what the fuck? How did you come up with that? And she's just like, I have a really specific amount of knowledge when it comes to drugs. So that's Junpei. Like, he just has this very like niche set of information in his brain, and that's all his brain can hold.
I love it.
I love that. Yeah. The other thing I was going to mention is, oh gosh, there were two things. One was so Michael, you kept saying, pay attention to this foreshadowing. What do you think is going to happen? And like, okay, did I guess that the weird kid was somehow related to the main character? Yes. Did I guess that he was basically going to end up being the villain? Yes, it was fairly obvious. But honestly, I never expected what ended up happening, where he's like confused and didn't know he was the villain and wishes he wasn't and is all apologetic about it. Did not expect that. I thought it was totally different direction than I expected the obvious twist to go. Super, super cool. I was like, whoa, I care way more about this than I thought I would. I thought it was just going to be like, psych, guess what, guys? I'm the bad guy. None of y'all guessed it. And I'd be like, yeah, okay, now we're going to kick your ass.
Yeah, because like I think the JRPG trope is exactly that. You get to the quote-unquote final boss of the game, and then his right-hand man is like, you fell right into my plan. Yeah. And like, that's what normally would have happened here.
I think the reason why I saw it was because of the conversation that we had with Pharaohs shortly before. And this, you're right, this isn't like, ha ha ha, I'm the bad guy. This is more like, ha ha ha, I'm the bad guy. Aw, that feels really shitty.
I made myself feel bad.
That really sucks. And that's a very Shin Megami Tensei like theme. That's a very, very like big, like, oh, I don't want to be the bad guy, but I've gotta be. And I feel like that's a very like, oopsies, sorry, sort of kind of trope that I see, in my opinion, in Shin Megami Tensei. But yeah, like it's still like, oh, I'm the villain, but it takes a different perspective on it. I guess a much more sentimental, like human perspective on death. I think they specifically make him so human because this is an easier way to talk about death. It's easy to talk about death by proxy of a person who's saying like, I can feel, right? You guys got your social link up with Ryoji, right?
With Ferris?
No,
we
Ryoji.
Can't get a social link up with Ryoji.
Okay, so I can. I can.
I hate your game,
I guess,
by the way.
Okay. I can, and so I guess to add more of a like to paint a picture to how accelerated people like take to Ryoji, it happens really fucking quick. Like you get max with him very, very fucking quickly because like day one you meet him, and then like by day two you already have a link with him because Junpei's already buddy with him. And when we understand Ryoji, and throughout the social links you see that he's popular with girls are like attracted to him, but he has like a real taking to the main character, and it's like really intense, intimate stuff. Like I have like a desire to like be with you, I want to be with you forever. Like it's like a lot of intense emotions. Like it's kind of crazy. It's kind of weird actually. And so all of that kind of, if Ryoji's like an avatar for death, it kind of makes it easier to talk about death when you understand that everything around it is already attracted to it, and that everything is already heading towards it, right? And it's also really funny when we talk about Ryoji and the concept of death, because it's like, what if death was not such an ugly topic? What if it was as nice as Ryoji is, like getting to know you? It's like almost like the concept of death itself was getting to know the main character through this social link. And I was like, that's really weird, because that's what he essentially is. That's essentially what he represents. And so we see that, unlike in Tartarus when death is out to kill you, this version of death is a little bit more slow and steady and has like much more of an intent to it, and that's a different perspective to take on death, very much so, I think, in like just the Persona franchise.
Also,
in general.
are you telling me that the mysterious character who appears near the end of a narrative after destroying 12 big monsters and has a weird romantic thing with the character?
Right. New character, new social.
I certainly haven't seen that in the most famous anime of all time, Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Right, exactly. Or like Shadow of the Colossus, literally. And so
Spoilers, I haven't even turned on that game. That was really kind of rude for you.
Okay, my bad.
I mentioned it earlier. Sorry.
Yikes. Yeah, no,
I see. This goes back to Eli doesn't know what a fucking spoiler is.
Whoops. But I just think that Ryoji at this point is such an interesting character because of what he represents. A lot of themes in Persona 3 revolve around this topic, whether it be by apathy syndrome or suicide or getting killed. The imminence of death is a subject here, and Ryoji wraps that up in a really youthful, almost it's really antagonistic to what he represents, right? He's like really youthful, flirty, playful, nice, and you don't associate that with death. And so I like how this game approaches that topic by way of literally making it flirt with you. And so that's why you know what I mean? Like it's like literally flirting with you. And I guess in many ways, like we already flirt with death in a lot of different ways. So it's kind of cool that they kind of,
you could literally flirt with death.
Right. That you could, right. You know, it's interesting that I know that I'm like taking it to the end, and I don't know if that's like a designer issue or whatever, but like that's kind of, I kind of saw that in the narrative, and I thought that was really cool.
And I'm feeling like that's a missed opportunity for the versions where you play as a boy, because they could have had a really interesting bisexual character in there.
I forgot to tell you. I forgot, like, the last thing he tells you in his social links is like, you know, I think I would still like you very much. He's like, I still think that I would be into you and like you even if you were like a guy or girl.
Okay.
And yeah, he even says that. Yeah.
That's a little nod, and I appreciate that.
Me too.
We don't get any of that kind of interaction with him. It's
like,
really sad.
Every time you open your mouth about What was
Can
that?
you social link him in the portable version if you're still a boy?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
I don't think so.
Yes.
Maybe. But every time you open your mouth about Persona 3 Portable, it makes me hope that because Persona 5 did so
Yeah.
good and all
They
of
go
these
back and
PS2 classics are
remaster
doing
it,
so
yeah.
good that they remaster it, add in Persona 3 Portable stuff, give us a new like longer version of the answer, just give us a Persona 3 Platinum
I would love
and
it.
that will be so great. So, to speed things along, because that was most of the plot for the month. I jinxed it. I jinxed it last month.
Welcome.
I jinxed it last month and was like, "Oh well, things are picking up. We'll probably have a lot more to talk about." And most of this month is empty.
Exam week coming up.
Yeah. So right before exams, Mitsuru is like, "Well, I guess we should decide what we're going to do." She gets everyone together, but long story short, nobody is ready for it, and Junpei at one point I did like this. So Junpei says that he's scared, and Kari is like, you scared? What's the matter, Junpei? I thought you were like a big and bad strong man. And he gets onto her for not being serious, which I thought was like an awesome like table turn.
Yeah, he's like, we're all gonna die,
Junpei.
bitch. Like he's like, are you crazy? You know, like it's hilarious.
Yeah, it did feel like Mitsuru or Yukari was really not taking this seriously.
I don't think she knows how to, and we see that. Like we see her character, like she does not know how to handle a crisis, and when she does handle a crisis, it's handled, but it's oftentimes slippery for her to get a hold of. And in this, and I like Yukari is a little vapid, and in that she can like even in times like this, she's like committed to one-upping Junpei, and he's just like, okay, I get that I'm afraid of shit, but like we're gonna die, girl. And so like she's just it's weird. I don't know where to ever place Yukari at all, to be honest.
Her social link requires you to have max charm, so it makes sense that she would kind of be vapid and kind of superficial.
Yeah, that's true.
So
yeah. So I don't know whose note this is because I didn't write
that was me.
Okay, go ahead and mention that part because that was really cool. I never even noticed that.
Yeah, Fuka says that she was like worried because her responses were like really terse, and Yukari says, it's okay, Fuka. I mean, it's not natural to choose how you're going to die. This is an important theme. This is like an important topic. And I think this was like really subtle because the words, it's not natural to choose how you're going to die, really reflects on a lot of topics here, including Ryoji and his choice and his choice to give us a choice on how he'd die, Chidori and her suicidal tendencies, and even the like the symbology of like, oh no, the Strega jumping off of the building, Chidori giving her own life away. Like there's a consistent there's a recurring choice of death in this game, and and it's funny how like it's finally acknowledged that the reason why so many of these moments are high tense is because the answer is, well, like it's not natural to choose how you're going to die. And that is I feel like these were one of the moments in the game where I feel like it gave players the answer, like to like this is what, like I feel like this was a very developer or writer intended line, like this is what a part of the game is about. Like these things are stressful because choosing how you're going to die is not natural. And so, you know, with a lot of themes that involve that choice, it makes a lot of sense that a lot of these characters experience such a stalemate with themselves, or they experience such a stagnation with their choices because they just don't know what to do. And yet still we see many themes of that very same thing in this game. And so that's why I thought it was really cool to point out, because you could have really missed it if you, I guess, weren't reading all of it or maybe paying attention.
And I did. I just was like, "Yep, it's not normal." I didn't even.
Yeah,
think
yeah.
about
You're
it.
like, thanks, Yukari. But yeah, I liked how it was just talking about the game itself.
Yeah,
right?
the characters all get a lot of during this whole month. I don't know literally how often the dialogue changes, but the party, when you're hanging out at home in the evening, dialogue changes pretty frequently, and all the characters just all have such interesting things. It's not always it's not always that profound, because it's like, guess what, they're high schoolers, they're not always profound. But it's like, for the whole month, all of them are just having various thoughts about the situation they're in, and it's really like, boy, how would I react to this situation if I just had a month to sit around and think about death? Well, I do
Absolutely
have a month to sit around and think about that.
Yeah. No, this game talks about death a lot. It introduces the theme of death a lot. And so I think that I was really into it when I was younger, because I didn't know how to handle the concept of death. And so to me, it was like really cool that I guess through these high school students that you really get to associate with this topic, because death is such a negative thing in every other game. Death in MMORPGs and every other game, it's like you start over, you go back. It's an inconvenience. And here, death is more like a dance. And it's really interesting to see how it kind of looks through the lens of Persona 3. Sorry, that was kind of deep. Ew.
Yeah, no one wants that. Well, I think that's the thing. Maybe this would be a decent time to ask this question. Ignoring the whole, we know secretly one of these choices is the right one because it gets the true ending. Putting yourself in the position of these characters and imagining it's actually happening to you and not as part of a video game that you want to get the true ending to. What is y'all's decision? What were y'all thinking about this decision that you had to make?
I mean, I was already planning to let Ryoji live, because I play the pacifist route. I don't know. Something just told me that the right.
There's something that not to cut you off. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Oh.
Sorry, it just popped in my head. I can hold.
No, it's okay. I was just going to say, it felt like the right choice was going to be to let him live and then just do what we could to fight Nyx. I didn't know for certain, but I felt reasonably sure about it.
Yeah, there's something that Akihiko says later, happens to be on the 23rd because I'm looking at my notes, but he says something where he's like, I know we can't win, but that doesn't change anything. I wouldn't want to die peacefully in my sleep and not know. I would want to at least give it a shot, which is his boxer of it all. He's like, well, I'm going to go down swinging. I'm not going to tap out.
He says he wants to look at it. He says that he wants to look at it in the eyes.
I'm basically
and I feel something similar, but also this isn't just me dying. This is the whole universe dying, and I have really bad self-esteem, so I don't think that I would be able to think, oh, I'm the one that can save everyone. I would just be like, oh, well, I mean, if everybody's going to die, I might as well chill, I guess.
No, I'm too obsessive for that. I would have let him. I would have let him live, just because I would want to see it. I think that there's no. I don't think that there's any wrong choice. They only call it the bad ending because you don't play more of the game. But the truth is that in any choice, it's a difficult choice to make, and I don't think anyone is wrong. But the truth, but for me, personally, I would have let him live, just because if you knew that you were gonna die anyway, latching onto your I don't want to be what the fuck, no, I would have just dropped out of school.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, okay, thank you so much for telling me this. If I'm gonna die anyway, I don't want to erase my memories and then do more fucking work. No, that's not what I'm gonna do. That's not what I'm gonna do. I am gonna remember that this happened, take this with me, and then I'm also gonna live my life the best that I can. Thanks, bye. Because I wouldn't. I don't know. I would not. Yeah, I wouldn't want to go back to school like that.
We got slightly ahead of ourselves, and these two things are just character moments. I wanted to touch on them before we dive into the ending per se. There's another episode. It's not the true ending, but so on the 20th, Mitsuru comes into Yukari's room. They're teasing each other and getting along, and it started making me ship them. And Yukari's asking, like, do you think Nyx is inside of Tartarus? And Mitsuru's like, literally, I don't know. And they just decide that, like, they're going to fight together. And Yukari says, it doesn't matter if we die as long as we're proud of how we lived. And she's going to be proud if we stand up to fight Nyx. Like, she feels like that's the right decision. And it would be the decision that if in the afterlife she looked back at the story of her life and she saw that she made that decision, she would be proud of that decision. And I really liked that bit.
This is the girl that's scared of ghosts. So seeing her like be this bold and not afraid to take on what's coming, like, is really interesting. And I think it's partially because of her dad.
I was gonna say, like, I think she has to know that her father didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
And so I think that I like this because it shows the resolve in Yukari for this particular part of herself. Like, she's still kind of like annoying to me, but I'm like, oh, she got the, she fixed this. Yes, amen, good for her. Because like because she was really scared. But I guess when you're faced with death, it's either you do or you don't. And I don't think that we're gonna write characters that were like, no, like, I don't want to happen.
The other one, because we already talked about Akihiko, so him and Kin talked together, and that's when Akihiko said that he wants to look death straight in the eye when it happens. But then the last one is Junpei. He's at Port Island Station, where he always been up with Chidori, and he's looking through Chidori's sketchbook, which that by itself, like, they could have had no cutscene after that. It could have just shown him there reading Chidori's sketchbook, and I would have got it, and I would have cried for about 3 hours before I continued.
Yeah.
But so
that would have been a really good subtlety.
Yeah. The cutscene is rather short. Fuka basically just says, wow, Junpei, you've gotten so strong. Basically, you used to be a pervert, and now you're kind of this bastion of good. And she doesn't want to lose his memory. And he says, well, I don't want to forget Chidori. And this scene I see is where all of the shippers for Fuka x Junpei come from, because she's like, I don't want to lose your memory. But I still, no, Fuka's too precious for Junpei.
Yeah, definitely.
Also, X Mitsuru is obviously the OTP.
What'd you say?
Oh, I said obviously Junpei X Mitsuru is the OTP of the game. Everyone knows that.
You were right. You do have a bad ship.
Yeah.
But I mean, she does have red hair, so I could see it. He has a type. Okay, so now no holds barred. We get to the ending of the game. When we get to the 30th, Aigis comes back, and we're going to meet in the lounge and debrief. And when we get there, Aigis spends a good long time basically just saying, I'm a machine, I'm a piece of shit. And they're like, no, you're our friend. And they go back and forth on it a lot.
It's like she gets depressed. It's really kind of interesting to see how a robot gets depressed.
Yeah.
Well, if robot
and at one point, Aigis asks if we're wasting our lives because we know we can't win, and Aki's like, we aren't wasting it, and Aigis is like, well, I guess I just don't understand because I'm not alive, and Junpei's like, that's not it, and he says our purpose is to help those who we see are hurting, so even if we only help these people that are being attacked by shadows feel good for a month, it counts. So I thought that was really cool, where it's like, yeah, everyone's going to die in March, but this person doesn't have to die tomorrow. So
that is nice.
Yeah. And
I had this moment of like the seeing her as the Rick and Morty thing, where she's like, what is my purpose? And she said that literally. And my thought was me going, you fight shadows. And she just sits there, looks at her hands and goes, oh my God.
Yeah, like they're right.
And Mitsuru said something that I want to get on a t-shirt. It's so motivational. She says, missing your goal doesn't make you a failure. It just means you have a new goal. And that's so good. That's so positive.
That's good. I like that.
So at the end of all of this, Iga says she realizes what her purpose is. Her purpose is to live, and she knows that this is her purpose because she gave it to herself. It's not in her programming, which in true sci-fi fashion means that she's become rampant, and now we have to kill her because otherwise she'll take over the world.
She's not following the Prime Directive. Destroy her.
Yeah.
She then asks if she can join Seas, which I thought was really cute. And her persona then digivolves, and that's the last of our people whose persona gets to digivolve.
Oromaru never does.
Yeah, is he gonna digivolve at some point?
He hasn't so far.
He hasn't, has
Yeah.
he?
don't
That's
think
what
so,
I thought.
no.
During
Let me see if he even
when's that gonna
does.
happen?
I love
Well,
my
the problem is
pupper.
Koromaru is already filled with like the most determination you can possibly be filled with. How can you possibly?
Yeah, for
Maybe
real.
he's already
Yeah,
he
really.
digivolves like before the off screen like
He already did
Yeah.
evolve.
He probably, actually thinking about it, his persona probably digivolved the moment we first met him, because he had a persona fighting for his master and stuff. But then when he decided, I'm going to stop just bringing flowers to my master, I'm going to
Exactly.
change and help everybody. That's probably when his persona
he's
digivolved.
like already better than
But,
everybody else
I-
right at the beginning.
Yeah, I checked his wiki and he does not have another one later. So I especially because he learns dying spells before anybody else does. I think he
That's
definitely,
true. Yeah.
I definitely
I think
already
that's definitely a
digivolved.
solid read of the situation.
Yeah. So
Headcanon.
hell yeah. So the final night comes on, and Ryoji shows up and is like, let me know when you're about to choose, and I won't feel any pain, so don't worry about killing me. This is literally just about you. And everyone says, you've made your mind, but you're the only one that can kill him, so go ahead. And so I go up to his room, and he says, wow, it's been a while since we've talked in my room. In case you missed the line where I said that I was Pharos, I'm Pharos, remember? And he says if we let him live, we'll waste our lives in a battle we can't win. But and since I'm the only one he knows that everybody else is choosing one thing, but since I'm the only one here, I can decide, so I can go against what everybody else is saying. So I kill him, and he says that I finally understand him, and no one knows which road leads to happiness. So looking towards the future is not necessarily correct. And he finally feels happy, and I evoke my persona, and it fades to black. And in that moment, everything stops. Our memories fade, and we go on with our lives. Then it cuts to 2 months later. Main character and Junpei are walking to school, and Junpei says, well, you never ever miss a day of school. And he asks if we think anything crazy will happen in senior year, and I say definitely. He says the current seniors are always studying, which looks super boring, and but then he falters mid-sentence, and he's like, I feel like I'm missing something that's supposed to happen today. And then Aigis is there, like over behind some bushes, just staring at us, and Junpei's like, who is that? And Yukari walks up and is like, she lives with us. And he's like, she does? Then what's her name? And Yukari's like, you know what? I don't know. And Yukari's like, oh, Akihiko's moving out. And Junpei's like, the captain of the boxing team? She's like, he lives with us? I've never met him. And and then he's even like, oh, the student council president lives with us too? Huh. I'm like, there are 4 rooms in this building. How do you not know who these 4 people are?
Yeah,
Really
that's a
had
little
their memories
concerning.
wiped.
Right? And so Junpei's like, hey, you, talking to Aigis, and is like, are you okay? And she runs off. And Junpei's like, she looks depressed. I wonder if she's into us. And Yukari says that there's no chance. So at least them flirting and hating each other survived. And then on graduation day, Mitsuru gives us a speech. She talks about seizing the opportunity when we have the chance to kind of rub it in that I made a bad choice. And she thanks everyone for helping her through her father's death. And Junpei notices that Aigis isn't there. And Yukari's like, a lot of people skipped. In fact, Junpei, I'm surprised you didn't skip. And then we're all talking about what our future plans are, what we want to be when we grow up. And Yukari is like, I don't want to worry about that. Let's just have a graduation party and let's go sing some karaoke. So then we see an anime cutscene of them singing at karaoke, and the credits roll. But then everybody dies because Nyx wasn't stopped, and that was the bad ending.
Oh man, that's great. That is exactly how I was hoping the ending worked. I didn't want to watch the bad ending because I like to role play and no, this is my choice. I'm not watching the other ending. That rules though.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly how it should have been. Oh man.
Did anybody else play the bad ending to see how it happened?
No, I was afraid.
I did not play
karaoke.
I was expecting in the karaoke cutscene while the credits are rolling, I was expecting it to click to the dark hour or something like the top spinning in Inception, something ambiguous, what happened type thing, and it just rolls credits and then it says thank you for playing our game. Do you want to start a new game plus? And it was kind of awesome.
Oh my gosh. I would have considered it a misstep if it had that sort of spinning top or hint.
Yeah.
Oh man.
It wouldn't have been bad, but it's better that it doesn't, for sure.
I think that leaves it even more ambiguous as to what happened and kind of makes you think, did they actually die? Did they...
Well, because Ryoji said they were going to push back the dark hour. He said he would push back the end, but he never said how much it pushed it back. Which is it's weird they never asked, but so you don't know. At some unspecified point in the future, all of the videos are going to be wiped out, but you don't know what's going to happen when it's going to happen. Ah, man, that kicks ass.
Yeah,
it's kind of heartbreaking that Mitsudo makes the comment you have to seize the opportunity when you can, but thank you for being here through my father's death, because her dad died the same way.
Yeah.
And we know that her dad died the same way. And that's really heartbreaking to think about, seeing her up there on Tartarus by herself with Akihiko and it failing. And I'm like, wow, that's really sad. That's actually very, very heartbreaking.
If you're doing that too, you have to think you're going against the wishes of all your other teammates. Because every single one of them is like, no, I'm going to fight. No, I'm going to fight. And then you're left with the ultimate decision. And you go up and tell Pharos, Ryoji, I'm going to kill you now. And it's like, what? Did you not just pay any attention to what everybody else said? Do you not care about how they feel? You are being a selfish asshole right now.
This is a very also Shin Megami Tensei factor of the game too, a very controversial, but you can still argue both points sort of perspective.
And to take Yukari's thing that she said before, where if she looks back on her life from the afterlife, she wanted to be proud of it. Imagine, all right, Nick shows up, kills everybody, everyone's in the afterlife, and they look back, and they're just like, you motherfucker.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
We could have done this. You could have sat out. You could have been like, look, guys, I'm freaked out. I don't want to do it. You could have let us do it all by ourselves. But no, you had to make this decision for the whole fucking world.
Come on, dude. We had a Game Shark code.
It's true.
Yeah, seriously. I do think that one thing that's interesting. So obviously I decided to let him live. I do like the idea though of inevitability, because it's death is inevitable. So I think one argument you could make that I thought for a bit is that you should accept death by just letting it happen. But here, on one hand, it is natural. Death is natural. But you know what else is natural? Fighting against death.
Fighting for your life.
It is human nature to rage against the dying of the light, even if it is worthless. So I made the decision to let him live, not just because I know it's an anime game and I know I know it's got dancing and fighting game sequels, so I know they secretly are going to win and not die. Even if the real ending of this game is that you fight Nyx and he's impossible and they all suffer horribly, that still is my decision, because that is actually fighting death is just as natural as death. And
that's how it is for all life. All life on Earth, from plants to animals to people to microorganisms. It's all fighting for survival, and death is a part of that cycle, but everybody has that instinct to try and stay alive.
Mm-hmm.
Deciding to just let death win almost is like cheating. It's like, no, you're supposed to fight, you lazy ass. I know you're not going to win. That doesn't change the fact that you're supposed to fight.
Yeah. So the good ending includes playing an entire other month, and it makes me mad that spoilers, you get a social link with Aigis, but you only get it in January. It makes me really it's kind of awesome, but kind of sad that you don't get a chance to have a social link with Aigis unless you make this choice.
So it's like Nazis are real.
That was something.
Yeah.
That was something that I was going to bring up in a previous episode when I first went to talk to Yukari about going out. After I had maxed out my charm, I tried talking to Aigis first, and it said something about how she doesn't understand human emotions enough just yet.
Yeah, which is really cool.
Yeah, they keep saying the game's basically saying you're gonna have a social link later.
Yeah,
but not yet.
You got to wait for it. You got to really want it.
So if you let Ryoji live, he turns into death, and which is the persona that you awaken from the first opening movie. Finally, checking off another box that
Thanatos,
Thanatos.
We're like, oh, that was him. Got it. And it makes sense because it was the first persona that they came across.
Mm-hmm.
Got it.
And he says, look at me, ain't I scary? I'm going to bring death for everyone until I'm satiated. So you really need to kill me. There's no way to stop Nyx. And I'm just like, tough. And he says, you're dumb, but it's your choice. So we go down to the lounge, and he, again, broken record, is just like, you can't win. And Mitsuru is like, well, we're going to try, even if it is impossible. And he's like, well, fine. Nyx is going to be at Tartarus on the dark hour at January 31st, and she's going to be at the very top. So you have to get to the top before that day. Tartarus only exists to bring Nyx in. The appraiser awakens her, and Tartarus welcomes her. He's like, it's going to suck though. You can't win. And Mitsuru's like, literally, you've said that. Just leave.
He's like, good luck.
And he's like, well, I'm going to leave while I still have this form. He apologizes to Aigis for all the trouble. And she says, I won't forget that you were my enemy, and I won't forget that you were my friend. And he wishes us a happy new year. But they use a translation of Happy New Year that's more true to the literal translation of how the Japanese say Happy New Year, because in the Japanese it's like best wishes for the coming year or something, which basically sounds like good luck on dying, douchebags.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, what? And he's like, isn't that what you're supposed to say? And they're like, oh yeah, it's New Year's, forgot. Okay, cool, see you, dude. And so then we max the C's social link, and then we get a second C's social link for the Nyx eradication team, and the night ends, and we move on to the first.
I want to pause real quick and bring up an extremely amazing line of dialogue from that previous scene. Have you ever had a situation where you and your group of friends know that two of your other friends just fucked? But like they just fucked, and maybe they and then you see them and you all just act like everything's normal. That's kind of how I felt like, because all of the people in C's had all agreed, yeah, we're all going to let him live, but he didn't know that. So then you go up, it's like the two of you go upstairs and they're all just waiting down there, and they know what you decided, but it's still just happening. And my favorite line, honestly, one of my favorite lines in the whole game, you come down and you just had this extremely dramatic conversation, this climactic, choosing between life and death, very thematically loaded thing, very heavy. You come downstairs, and the first thing that happens is Junpei, using his dialogue image where he's smiling, he just goes, yo, what's up, Ryoji? And he's just acting like y'all didn't just have this extremely climactic conversation up there, and also acting like they didn't all know that you were going to come down without killing him. They all knew that's what was going to happen, but they just got to act like, oh, hey, Ryoji, so I guess you're still alive, huh? What a surprise.
I'm totally shipping Ryoji and main character now, by the way. Not that I haven't been already, but
I know it's problematic, but Ryoji is the MVP of this game. He's so cool. He's so nuancedly written, and that line just sealed it for me. It's like, yo, what's up, Ryoji?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Acting like you're not the incarnation of death.
So then finally, the morning of the first is super duper cute. Ken comes down and wishes us a happy new year, and he wishes one to Koromaru as well. And Ken then asks if we're going to the shrine, and we're like, no, like none of us are religious or superstitious. Like it's just a day off school. Let's just chill. And he's like, well, dang, the girls are already there and they're wearing their kimonos. And then Junpei's like, now that I think about it, I gotta run to the store real quick. And Akihiko and Ken are like, okay, we'll go to the store with you.
Akihiko totally calls him out. He's like, fine, you can go to the store. I'm coming with you to the store, though.
So when we get to the shrine, everyone's already about to leave, but their kimonos are super duper cute. Definitely putting links to their kimonos
so
down in the bottom.
Yukari. Oh my god.
Yeah. And Junpei says that Mitsuru looks hot, which is like the most like forward he's been with Mitsuru ever. And she's just like, well, then stop staring. And like, I love her. She's such an unreadable like machine. So then Ken asks the girl if the girls if they're cold, and Yukari's like, a little bit, but I like this time of year. It's not bad. And Ken's like, but Junpei says that you guys weren't going to be wearing any underwear under your kimono. And Yukari again,
Nice.
90th time, stomps on Junpei's foot, and everyone says what their wish was, and it was all for a good year, and everything is happy.
So Ken was bullshitting, right?
What?
Ken was bullshitting.
No, I think Junpei.
No,
I think Junpei literally says that because
he just.
if you go down and talk to him, if you go and talk to him in like, because you can like look around the festival there. If you go talk to Junpei, he's like, how could you tell them that I said that? And he's like, I didn't know. I'm a little kid. I don't know nothing.
I thought Junpei was saying like, no, I didn't say that.
He was like probably acting like he didn't say that, but Ken was just like, but you said, so I mean,
I don't know. I think he's a motherfucker.
You think
I think
Ken is just like
playing him with that everyone knows Junpei's a perv. Or maybe Junpei is that big of a perv. Who knows?
Probably. But
He's just that big of a curve.
But that about wraps it up for this week. I did a bunch of I finished out a bunch of social links. I know that Eli finished out a bunch of social links, and I know I'm going to be starting a lot of them next time. But because the plot is like really heavy and really deep and a lot of talking, like we're not even going to try to touch on them as we get through them for this this week and next. We're just going to have a follow-up special as like not a bonus episode, but a 11th episode of Persona, where we'll go and we'll talk through all the ones that we did but didn't get to talk about. And then I've also read the plot, the scripts for all the ones that I didn't even come close to starting. So we'll be able to talk through all of those and do final like big thoughts of the game after we finish it next week. If you liked what you heard today, you can check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/rpgbookclub. People who donate can vote in the polls, as you heard at the top of the hour, to decide what game we play next. And the Patreon is mostly just used to offset hosting costs so that we can continue to do this even if we all get fired. And you can also chat with us on Twitter and that's at RPG Book Club, all one word. At Twitter, obviously, you can't have spaces in your Twitter. Like that was so dumb of me. Sorry, all one word. But that's at RPG Book Club on Twitter. And if you go to our Twitter, pinned to the top is our Discord server where we hang out most of the time. We have a new friend that joined the Discord just yesterday. His name is Matt J. Matt, when you're listening, hey dude, what's up?
You have great hair. Hi.
And that's usually the place where we announce things. Like just while talking with Matt, I accidentally announced what the next two games that we'll be voting on at the end of Rogue Galaxy will be, because I have no filter in that Discord. So link to that will be in the description. It's on our Twitter and our Patreon. But that about does it for the week. I have been Sam Allman.
I have been Michael Rodriguez.
I'm Elias Sailor Eli Warren.
And I am other Michael Webbin at Spiffle.
And we'll see you guys next week to finish out the first game of RPG Book Club. I'm really excited, guys.
Woo!
I'm going to go and beat this game tonight. You have no fucking clue. Like, I've been waiting since like Monday. Like,
then
I
I'm
think
gonna give my and then I'm gonna give my PSP/evoker back to Igor and be like, take this and get this away from me right now.
But you guys have a great week. And the final Tartarus theme is dope. So I'm going to put that instead of our normal outro because I love it.
Bye.